The Islamic Center of Tennessee presents
Alhamdulillah, sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. We start our fiqh of fasting, fiqh of Sawm A to Z, inshallah. We're going to start with the best of all speech, the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Muallim Abdullah will recite for us. فليتفضل.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فمن خاف من موص جنفا أو إثما فلا إثم عليه إن الله غفور رحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون أياما معدودات فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين فمن تطوع خيرا فهو خير له وأن تصوموا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصمه ومن كان مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر ولتكملوا العدة ولتكبروا الله على ما هداكم ولعلكم تشكرون وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداع إذا دعان فليستجيبوا لي وليؤمنوا بي لعلهم يرشدون.
بارك الله فيك وكثر الله أمثالك. Allah reward you, inshallah. Inshallah, we're going to start our fiqh of Sawm. Now, we said we're going to do A to Z. Inshallah, we're going to strictly talk about the fiqh issues relating to Ramadan. The virtue, the fadl, the importance of Ramadan. We try to summarize them today in the khutbah. So we'll strictly speak about the rules and regulations. In another way, do's and do not. What you can and what you cannot do, inshallah. And we're going to focus the area of the fiqh only. So let's start with Sawm. What is Sawm? What's the definition of Sawm? Linguistically, Sawm is al-imsak, to abstain. To abstain from anything linguistically is called Sawm. Maryam, she said, Inni nadartu lirrahmani sawma. I have intended to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do Sawm. Maryam did not mean that she will not eat or drink. Rather, she meant that she will not speak. وَلَنْ أُكَلِّمَ الْيَوْمَ إِنسِيًّا. So this is linguistically meaning of Sawm. To abstain from anything, whether it's food or drink, whether it is talking, anything that you abstain, you don't do it, is called Sawm. By definition, the definition of Sawm is at-ta'abbudu lillah, to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by abstaining from food or drink or anything that may nullify your fasting from the Fajr time until the sunset. This is the definition of fasting, is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by abstaining from food or drink or anything that nullifies your fasting, starting from Fajr all the way to the sunrise. Sawm does not start from sunrise. It starts from Fajr, before that. until to the sunset. So when the Sawm was obligated, Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah says that the Sawm was obligated in the second year of the Hijrah of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam died while he had fasted 9 months of Ramadan. When it comes to the obligations of fasting, there was 3 stages that it went through before it was officially obligatory to fast the entire month. They say, the scholars, the first stage was fasting only the day of Ashura. The hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, she said, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أمر بصيام يوم عاشور. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم commanded to fast the day of Ashura, the 9th of Muharram, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved Musa alayhi salam from Fir'aun and his army. Aisha says, فَلَمَّا فُرِضَ Ramadan, when Ramadan came, when Ramadan was made obligatory, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not say it was obligatory anymore. Rather, it was a choice. فَمَنْ شَاءَ صَامَ وَمَنْ شَاءَ أَفْطَرَ. Whoever wanted to fast, Muharram is highly encouraged, will fast. Whoever does not want, he doesn't have to fast. This hadith in al-Bukhari. So the first stage was from Ashura. It started from Ashura when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam arrived in Medina and saw the Jewish in Medina fasting on that day. The second stage was a stage of Ramadan, but it was a choice. It was not fully obligation. It was not fardu'in. It was marhalatu takhir. You had an option to fast, and if you don't want to fast, you could pay a fidya. That's why the scholars, they say, وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ. Those who have difficulties, don't want to do fast, فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ miskin. They could fast, they could feed one miskin. By the way, the resource that I'm going to, the book that last Ramadan I did from a book of Ibn Qudama rahimahullah, and this time we are doing from the Abdurrahman al-Sa'di, one of the great scholars who wrote the Mufassir, the Tafsir, the summarized tafsir of Quran with the explanation, the sharh of Ibn al-Uthaymeen. For those who want to go back, inshallah, they could go back to that book of Abdurrahman al-Sa'di, the Fiqh of Abdurrahman al-Sa'di. It's called Minhaj al-Fiqh. So the third stage was when the Siyam came. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made obligatory upon us to fast, mandatory, that you don't have a choice rather but to fast. Allah said, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Whoever reaches the month of Ramadan, he must fast in that month. So it was obligatory after that. So it went through 3 stages. The other point is that what's the ruling on fasting Ramadan? It's agreed in the Quran and the Sunnah and Ijma', the consensus of the scholars is fardu'in. It's obligatory upon every Muslim to fast. The proof is that the ayah that Abdullah recited, Allah says, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, who you believe, the believers, kutiba alaykum as-siyam. Indeed, the siyam was made obligatory upon you. Kutib ay wujib. It was obligatory upon you to fast. The way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made obligation upon the people before. Allah says, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you can have a taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The month is a course that you are taking, is a training course that you take. 1 month, you abstain from food, you drink, you abstain from your desire, you control your speech, you control your ears, you control yourself entirely. So this is training that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us so that we can graduate after fasting with a certificate called at-taqwa. You have to have a taqwa of Allah. You're going to be a better person after Ramadan. If you control yourself 1 month, know that you can control yourself the rest of the year. Then, so his obligation. Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, the hadith well known, says Imam Nawawi, Bunya al-Islamu ala khamsa. Islam was built upon 5 pillars. One of them was Sawm Ramadan, to fast the month of Ramadan. So the scholars had agreed that fasting Ramadan is obligation, individual obligation that everyone must fast. What about rejecting the obligation of fasting? If you reject the obligation of fasting, that's an act of kufr, an act of disbelief, because you are clearly rejecting an ayah or a hadith or a clear known thing in the Sharia, a pillar of Islam. If you said it's not wajib, it does not make sense to me that why I should be hungry. If you reject it completely, that will take you out of folder of Islam. However, if the person misses Ramadan, due to the laziness, due to the, he want to do but he is not ready for it now. If the person meets for those persons, as-sahih is that that person is not a kafir, is a Muslim, and is a asi Muslim, is a Muslim that who is disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But rejecting entirely the concept of fasting and say that fasting does not make sense to me, then that itself is an act of kufr and rejecting a pillar of Islam. Rejecting a pillar of Islam is something that we should be careful with it. The other one is the other point that I'm going to make it points, inshallah. Who has to fast? Upon whom fasting is obligatory? Number one, upon every Muslim. If kafir, a disbeliever, a person who does not believe in Islam, does not have to fast. Even if he fasts, his fasting will not be accepted. The proof is that Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. This obligation is upon the believers only. So the khitab huna muwajjah lil mu'minin only, to the believers, to the Muslims. If the person accepts Islam during Ramadan, he will start fasting from the moment that he accepts Islam. The scholars, they say, even he accepts Islam during the day, in the middle of the day, he will start fasting from that middle of the day, even though that day will not be counted, just to submit to the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number two, the person has to be adult. A child does not have to fast. But it's encouraged the child when he reaches the age of 7 to be asked to fast, to be taught to fast. When he reaches the age of 10, he should be commanded, he should be disciplined if he did not fast. Prophet ﷺ said, رُفِعَ الْقَلَمُ عَنْ ثَلَاثٍ. The qalam is lifted from 3 people. Among them is صغير, the child. He does not have to fast. He doesn't have to fast. So these are the conditions. He has to be a Muslim. He has to be a baligh, adult, reach the age of puberty. Adult in Islam is not an 18. There are signs of maturity. If the person reaches those signs, sees those signs, he's immature. Let me count. Number one is 15 years old. If the person reaches the age of 15 years old, Islamically, he's an adult. Number two, if he didn't reach the age of 15, some of them, they will reach the age of puberty before that. If their voices, example, change, if they get some hairs in their private parts, this is also a sign of maturity, and he is obligated to do. Another one is releasing a semen. The person reached the age of puberty. This is one of the signs that shows the person reached the age of puberty. For the sisters, if they have their period, this is a sign that they reached the age of puberty, regardless of how old they are. Some of them could have 9, some of them could have 12, whatever age it is. So the person has to be also adult, Islamically adult, reach the age of puberty. Number 3, the person has to be sane, has to be a aqil, someone does understand. A crazy person does not have to fast the month of Ramadan. The hadith of Prophet ﷺ said, وَعَنِ الْمَجْنُونِ حَتَّى يَصْحُ. The person who is crazy until he wakes up from that craziness, he doesn't have to fast. Number 4, the person has to be capable of fasting, like an old person who cannot fast, a sick person. These people are exempted. So capability is very important. Allah says, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah does not burden on a soul something that they cannot do it. So the capability is very important. What is capability? In another way, the person should not be disabled. In Islam, when it comes to disability, I'm not talking the legal disability, the person who cannot fast, either he has something that incidental that is expected to recover from. That person, he breaks his fast. You have incidental and a sickness method. You are sick, incidental disability. Then that person, he just breaks that and he doesn't fast on that day. Rather, he has to make it up. But if the person have a disability, is disabled to fast forever due to the age, or due to a sickness that he will never recover from it, or because he has to use certain medication that would nullify his fasting, that person who is disabled, that person breaks his fast. You break his fast, and instead of that day, since you cannot make it up, you feed a miskin on that day. How? We're going to speak about it later, inshallah. The mas'ala al-khamisah, the 5th point, is that when the month of Ramadan is obligation. When the month of Ramadan is obligation. when two things, one of these two things happen. Number one is برؤية الهلال. When the crescent moon is seen, then Ramadan has started. Or if the crescent moon is not seen, then to complete Sha'ban 30 days, the month before Ramadan. The hadith of Prophet ﷺ, رؤية الهلال, Prophet ﷺ said, صوموا لرؤيته وافطروا لرؤيته. Fast when you see the crescent moon, and break fast when you see the crescent moon of the Shawwal. Prophet ﷺ said, فَإِنْ غُمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ. If you cannot see the moon for any reason, says فَكْمِلُوا شَعْبَانَ 30 يَوْمًا. Then complete fasting 30 days. So Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا رَأَيْتُمُوهُ. If you see it. The scholars say he's seeing either with your naked eye, you could see it with your eye, or with telescope, or with something that you could look through your eyes and you could see the moon, then that's a ru'ya. That's a ru'ya. Also, we're going to learn from a ru'ya, when he was speaking about the ru'ya, the method of determining the Ramadan issue comes. There is two methods in fiqh wise. Let me just go through very fast. One is, number one, the correct one is moon sighting, the moon to be seen. Number two is calculation methods. First, al-hilal. What is the definition of hilal? Hilal, halla, something that came out, something appeared. So the definition itself shows that hilal is something that has to appear and has to be seen by the people. Has to be seen the people. The Prophet ﷺ said, لا تصوموا حتى تروا, until you see the moon. And he said, the Prophet ﷺ gave also, if in case you cannot see it. They gave an option. If you cannot see it, they didn't say use a calculation or anything else. If you cannot see it, the option is to complete the Sha'ban 30 days. To fast Sha'ban 30 days. And the hadith clearly shows that. The hadith of Prophet ﷺ says that the ru'ya is a necessity. When it comes to the ru'ya and moon sighting, there are global moon sighting and there are local moon sighting. Global moon sighting, which means that if any Muslim that sees in the world, we will abide by that and we will follow by that. The Zahir al-Hadith, you could see from the Hadith, is directed to the entire Muslims. So whenever you see the moon fast, Allah Subhanahu is speaking to the entire Muslims. One opinion is that if any Muslim, and the opinion that I lean to, and it sounds to the strongest, that if any Muslim sees around the world with a clear eye, with a naked eye, or through his eyes, then the rest of the Muslims is obligated, based on the hadith of Rasulullah, sumu, fast. This Prophet is talking to the entire Muslims. That's the point number one. Some group, they say no, local is important, and every community or every country has to look for the moon, and based on that, people will fast or not fast. They take some aqwal of the Sahaba, that one of the companions, and they say Ibn Umar, came to Medina, and he came from Ash-Sham, Muawiyah place. When he came to Medina, he told them that we started day so and so, and they said day and so. So they did not refute each other. Based on that, they say that it's the local moon sighting can be followed. However, i'tibar in that mas'ala, the Zahir al-Dalil, the Dalil shows that the hadith talking to the entire Muslims, and any Muslim sees the moon, whether it's from Saudi Arabia, whether from Jordan, whether from anywhere in the Muslims, then that the entire of the Muslims must fast, and it's obligation upon them to fast. There is no fiqh opinion says that you have only to fast, to follow one certain country like Saudi, مثلا. Saudi, they look for the moon. So there is no fiqh position says that only follow Saudi. The fiqh position says either you follow global moon sighting, which any country sees, you won't discriminate the Muslim in Yemen or the Muslim in Saudi, or you say, no, I'm not going to follow global moon sighting, which is a weaker to me, but it's a solid opinion to the other scholars, that we follow our local, which means that in America we have to look for the moon. You have to look for the moon to see it. So that's point one. When it comes to the majlis, some of the fiqh councils, I got some of their fatawa just to read for you. المجمع الفقه الإسلامي لرابطة العالم الإسلامي. This fiqh council for Muslim World League. Their base, they have scholars from all the Muslim countries. Their base is in Mecca al-Mukarramah. So they release a fatwa pertaining what to follow whether to follow the calculation or moon sighting. They said, لا يجوز لأي بلد الصوم أو الإفطار على الاعتماد على الحساب الفلكي. It's not permissible. I'm going to mention some معاصرين scholars who have the opinion of calculations and their arguments, inshallah. But now I'm talking about the stronger opinion that I lean to. That Majma' al-Fiqh says the Muslim World League, the entire Muslims have someone in there, some scholars in there. They agree that is not permissible for the Muslim in anywhere to follow the calculations, nor according to a calendar. Rather, the entire Muslim should follow the moon sighting. The moon sighting, صُومُوا لِرُؤْيَتِهِ, based on the hadith of Prophet ﷺ, saying that fast when you see the moon and break your fast when you see the moon. They say that especially at the end of the hadith when the Prophet ﷺ said an option that there could be a moon there, but you may not see it. فَإِنْ غُمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ, if the moon is covered from you, that there might be a possibility the moon is there, but it's covered from you, said complete the Sha'ban. Based on that, they say that Majma' al-Fiqh, Fiqh Council, that's the fatwa that released. There is another called Al-Majlis al-Urabi lil-Ifta'i wal-Buhuth, the Europe Council for Fatwa and Research. They said also, يُثْبِتُ دُخُولَ الشهر. It would be affirmed the beginning of the month with seeing the moon with the eyes. And they say that it is not permissible to follow the calculations. The only time that the scholars, they say you can follow the calculations is bin nafi. If the calculations say that it's mustahil, it's impossible that the moon to be seen or the moon even to be born. So anyone comes and say, I see the moon, we will reject it. That's the opinion that the ulama and many countries, including Saudi Arabia, adopted, that with rejections, we accept it's mustahil. We take the science from that part that's not possible. We're not going to look for it. And anyone brings a testimony, we will not take it. AMJA, American Muslim Jurist Assembly, that the fiqh that I go yearly, that we meet in Chicago. Also, they released a fatwa pertaining that, and they took that the global moon sighting is the correctest method to find or to start the month or to end the month, which means that any Muslim sees in anywhere of the world, the entire Muslim has to take his shahada, has to follow his shahada based on the ummah is one and the Muslims are one, and this is what seems to be stronger. What it seems to be stronger. There are some people now, when we study, we have to study both of the opinions, then we have to say the rajih when you're students of knowledge. Otherwise, you might hear different opinion and you may not be able to respond to their arguments. So some scholars, they say, and mu'asirin, the new ones, they say that you can follow the calculations. You can follow, by the way, locally, I believe Islam Center of Nashville follows calculation method. We chose to follow global moon sighting. That's what we think is the strongest. But inshallah, there won't be khilaf between the community. It's something that really not beautiful. But again, we have always to follow what's correct, what's right. So us and Mitsalam and Al-Faruq, we follow global moon sighting, while Sheikh Osama and ICN and his previous message also follow the calculations. So they say this is their argument. Some of their arguments that they say we follow the calculation in prayers. Why don't we follow in fasting? What do you think? That's a solid one. What do you think, Abdullah? We follow when we pray, we print it. We follow the calculations. Why don't we follow in the third or fourth pillar of Islam when we follow the first pillar of Islam in calculation? The answer is that when we pray, we don't follow a ru'ya. We don't follow a ru'ya. If Fajr no one sees it, we don't care it. But when it starts, we do it. So in Salah, ru'ya is connected to. It's not connected to. It's not necessary. Ru'ya. Somebody has to see the Fajr. Somebody has to look outside whether the sun reached an arm length. Nobody looks into that. And that's number one. Number two, the timing between the salawat is so long. So long, starting to the end. It's so long time that you can pray any time between that. So that's the answer to the say that why don't we follow? If we follow in Salah, why don't we follow in the calculations? That number two, the other argument they say is that hisab, calculations, is qat'i, now science have developed so much that we can really tell you when it is 400 years, we can know. Again, that's also is not solid. There are some times that that in the previous times that the science did not get the truth. I think it was a couple years that they said it won't possible, and when it was very possible, and the Muslims saw around the world the moon. So that's not qat'i, it's not 100%, but they, based on our observation, they could give you. One of their arguments is that there's a hadith of Prophet ﷺ says, "Inna ummiyya," we are ummis, we are illiterates, we don't read and write, and we don't count, we don't do hisab, rather we follow the moon sighting. Then they say the ummah is not longer illiterate, so then now we have to follow the calculation. Again, us, we are followers, we follow the Zahir in-Nas. We are the one who follow the Prophet ﷺ and the Zahir of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Rather, we don't look into the other angles, of the ayah, because we always have to submit to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said and what the message said. Sometimes the science can prove a matter now, and later, after 100 years, say we were wrong. The method that we had for years, that was not right. So we don't flip, we don't go with something that could change any time. However, inshallah, even though the strongest opinion is global moon sighting, the moon sighting, even though we know with yaqeen that that's stronger, that does not mean that the people who chose to follow the calculation, we should have animosity against them, we should hate them, we should fight them. It does not mean it. Rather, when it comes to agreement, we say our points, we say it clearly, this is what we think the strongest person. And this mas'ala at the end is a mas'ala fiqhiyya, is fiqh issue, fiqh differences. So the fiqh differences should not divide the Muslims. Or if we have divisions in aqeedah and what we believe, then that's something different. But when it comes to the fiqh issues, the Muslims should try their best to be united. So this is small discussion about the calculations and the moon sighting. As the masjid, we follow the global moon sighting, inshallah ta'ala. They already know, some of the masajid already called me, that's all, you already know what we follow, so we wait until things come more clear. So this is the mess between. The second way to start Ramadan, the first way is moon sighting, the second way is to complete the Sha'ban 30 days. See, if calculation was the right way, why we have an option of, if you cannot see it, complete 30 days? Why do we say that complete Sha'ban 30 days? Because there won't be no option of completing Sha'ban 30 days, because the moon can be seen. Because the moon, there won't be ghum. Even if there is clouds on the sky, the calculation people, they won't even go bother themselves look up at the sky. But while in the Sharia there is option that there could be a sky that would stop you from seeing the moon. If that happens, complete 30 days of Sha'ban. Okay, so these are the two ways to start. The point number 6 that I want to discuss is that what is the ruling on fasting, Yawm al-Shak, the day of doubt, the day of 30 Sha'ban, which means the day that if the moon is not seen and on the 29th, we have to complete to 30. So what is the ruling on fasting? Imam Nawawi rahimahullah says it's haram, and the scholars ijma' has consensus haram to fast on that day, based on the hadith of Prophet in Bukhari. Says that man sama yawm al-shak, whoever fasts the day of doubt, which is the day that the moon is not seen but there is doubt in it, faqad asa Abu al-Qasim. He said indeed he disobeyed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His name is Abu al-Qasim, his kunya is Abu al-Qasim. So it's not permissible. The hadith says فَكْمِلُوا شَعْبَانَ 30 يَوْمًا. So يَوْمُ الشَّك, the day of doubt, which is the 30th day of Sha'ban, is impermissible, is haram to fast. If you fast, you disobeyed the Abu al-Qasim, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You had something to ask? Okay. Now, so moon sighting, how many witnesses we need? Whose testimony would be accepted? We're going to accept the testimony of one person who is just, whether it's male or female, based on a hadith of Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. He says that the people saw the moon, in the crescent moon, in the time of Prophet, and I went personally by myself to Prophet, and I told him that I have seen the moon. And the Prophet ﷺ fasted based on my testimony, and he commanded the entire people to fast. So we need only one person to testify that the moon is seen. For the rest of the month, the scholars, they say, there's another hadith says that we need two witnesses. We need to. The reason they say that the month of Ramadan, usually people do not like to start early. Usually don't lie in starting fasting in Ramadan, because they realize he has to fast, the person. So usually it does not happen. The rest of the month, maybe the Eid, someone could get tired of Ramadan and come and tell you that I've seen the moon, man. Let's stop this. So we need two witnesses the other months. But in Ramadan, we need only one witness to testify. What are the conditions of the witness? First, he has to be a Muslim. The non-Muslim's witness testimony in the crescent moon will not be accepted. The hadith of Arabi, a Bedouin, came and he said, did you testify that there is no God but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He said yes, then he took his shahada. So the person has to be a Muslim. Number two, he has to be just adil, mimman tardawna min ash-shuhada. A Muslim who his testimony is accepted. A just right, good Muslim. Not any Muslim, maybe a drunk Muslim come to you, you just take his shahada. No, he has to be just and good Muslim. And he has to be a baligh, he has to be an adult, Islamically adult, and he has to be a aqil, he has to be a sane, that his shahada would be accepted. The mas'ala number 8 that I wanted to discuss is that the mas'ala of intentions in Ramadan. Do we have to have the intention every single night of Ramadan, or it suffices that to have one intention for the whole month? We must have intention for the whole month. According to the strongest opinion is that one intention of the beginning of Ramadan, you intend that I will be fasting this month of Ramadan. In your mind, you don't have to say it literally. That would suffice. And you could have that and would take care of it. Based on a hadith of Rasulullah said, مَنْ لَمْ يَبِتِ الصِّيَامَ قَبْلَ الْفَجْرِ فَلَا صِيَامَ لَهُ. Whoever does not intend the night before, then there is no siyam for him. So it could be the night before Ramadan starts, when the crescent moon is started. If you intend in your mind that we will fast this month for sake of Allah, then you had the intentions. You had the intentions, and it will suffice for you. So in generally, when we fast, obligation fast, like Ramadan, mathalan, any obligatory fast, or qada, or we are making up another day, any obligatory fast that we fast, we must have an intention beforewards. But when we fasting the sunnah, you don't have to have the intentions before the night. Mathalan, this is the hadith of Prophet ﷺ, he came to his house, and then Aisha says that he came and he said, do you have something that to eat? Aisha said, we don't have anything to eat. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَنْ فَإِنِّي صَائِمٌ, then I'm fasting. That means he didn't have the intention of fasting. So he just started from there. So if you go home and you don't have anything to eat, sunnah fasting, then you don't have to have the intention before night. But for the wajib one, for the obligatory fast, Ramadan, qada, you're making up another fast, then you must have the intention beforewards. The question arises that, so what about if I start the intention Asr? I started Asr, I said there is food, no food. I decided to fast from Asr. And the condition is you must have not eaten beforewards. You must have not eaten all day or drink all day. So would you get the reward of the entire day, or you will only get the reward of the parts of the day that you have intended? According to the strongest opinion, you will only get the parts that you had intended based on the hadith of Rasulullah, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Whatever you have intended, you get the reward for it. The rest you won't get it. So you will get half day, quarter day, whatever day. Now you get, this is the choice of the scholars, including Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah. This is the rajih. Alright. Mas'ala number 9. Point number 9. Who can break his fast? Who can break his fast? The following people are allowed to break their fast. Number 1, al-marid, the sick person. The sick person can break his fast based on the ayah, فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرَ. If amongst you someone who's sick, then he can make it up that day. He can break his fast and he can make up that day. And Allah says, لَا يُكَلِّفُ اللَّهُ نِفْسًا إِلَّا وُسْعَهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not put on a soul what the soul cannot bear, what the soul cannot do it. When it comes to the sickness, It's two types. I mean, two ways, two types. Number one is أن يضره الصيام, the sick person. Number one, someone who is sick, that the psalm, if he fasts, the psalm would harm him. He would get more sicker. And at this time, the psalm is haram. He's not allowed to fast. Allah says, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ, do not kill yourself. وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ, do not put yourself into destruction. So if you fast, sickness that you will go more weaker or you will be more sicker, then the siyam is haram. It's haram means you cannot fast at all. Number two is someone who is sick and it's difficult for him to fast, but it will not harm him. Then they say, the scholars, it's disliked, is makruh for that person, is disliked for that person to fast. Someone who is sick, and if he fasts, he will have some difficulties, but he will be okay. He'll have some difficulties, he'll be okay. The sunnah is to break that day. Based on the hadith of Prophet ﷺ, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ أَن تُؤْتَى رُخَصًا. If Allah give you a permissions, He loves to be taken that permission. If I give you something and you reject it, kind of like, it's not nice. It's not nice. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you a rukhsa, a permission not to break your fast. You're saying, oh Allah, I don't need your rukhsa anymore. So that's kind of rude. It is disliked for the person for the person who is sick not to take the rukhsa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So number one, the person who can fast is the sick person. And we divided into one sick. If he fasts, it will harm him. That's haram. If he fasts, the second one is if he fasts, it's okay, but he will have some difficulties. It's makruh for that person to fast. It's encouraged for him to take the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number two is al-musafir. The second person who's allowed to fast, who's allowed to break his fast, is a traveler. Is allowed for him to fast based on the ayah of فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ. He is traveler, and فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرَ, and he can make it other days. Based on the hadith of Anas radiallahu anhu, that Prophet ﷺ said, and Anas says that, كُنَّا نُسَافِرْ, we used to make troubles, we used to trouble. Some of us fast, some of us don't fast. It was okay, and no one was blaming the other. So it's a rukhsa for the musafir to break his fast. And this is the jamhur al-aqwal. The ikhtilaf comes, which one is better for the traveler, to fast or break his fast? There are two opinions in this, and I'm going to mention which one is stronger. Number one, al-fitru afdal. The one group, they say the person who is traveler, regardless of what, is better for him to break his fast. This is the qawl of Imam Ahmed and some scholars. Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal and some other scholars. They say that it's better for that person to break his fast if he is fasting. They take the hadith of Prophet ﷺ, لَيْسَ مِنَ الْبِرِّ الصِّيَامُ فِي السَّفَرِ. It's not among the righteousness to fast when you're traveling. One opinion. The qawl al-thani, the second opinion, is that as-sawmu afdal. For that person to fast is better for him, especially if the person will not have any difficulties from fasting. If he gets some difficulties, then we mentioned earlier. So if the person is not having any difficulties, like these days, you can take the airplanes, or even if you drive, you have that much problems. Which one is better? It's better to fast. The second. This is the jamhur. This is the consensus, the majority of ulama, and this is the choice of Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah, and this is the strongest opinion based on the hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, hadith Abu Darda. Abu Darda says that we went with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Ramadan, and it was severe, it was very hot. And he said many of us were not fasting. Every one of us was not fasting except the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he fasted on that day. We fasted that day. So the sabab al-rajih is the following. Number one, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam traveled and he fasted. So this shows that this one is better. The number two is safer. It's safer to fast than not to fast. Otherwise you may lose a good day. Number three is that you will get the good timing of Ramadan. Nothing is equal to Ramadan. So by you, even if while you're traveler fasting, then you will earn the fasting, plus you are in Ramadan. Plus, even though there's two qawl, as I mentioned, but the jamhur, they say, if you are traveler, it will not give you any difficulties. You won't have any that much problems. If there is a seriousness, you're going to get tired, really thirsty, you're walking, then it's another case. But if there is no difficulties in your traveler, it's better for you to fast to earn the reward of that day of Ramadan and to practice the practice of Allah ﷺ when he sallallahu alaihi wasallam fasted when he was traveling. So this is the second people who are allowed to break their fast. The third person who are allowed to fast is the woman who have menstruations or postpartum blood. It's haram for them to fast in Ramadan. And upon them is al-qada. They have to make up the day that they had missed. Based on the hadith of Aisha. Aisha says that, and a woman came and asked Aisha, she said, مَا بَالُ الْحَائِضِ تَقْضِي الصَّوْمَ وَلَا تُقْضِي الصَّلَاةِ. Why the ha'idah, the one who have menstruations, menstrual blood, why she has to make up the sawm? Why she doesn't have to make up the salah? She asked Aisha, Haruriyyah, and are you Haruriyya? Are you a takfiri? Are you takfiri? He said, no, but I wanted to ask. Then he said, this is what we used to practice at the time of Prophet ﷺ used to command us to make up the fast, not the prayer. So the scholars had agreed, Imam Nawawi rahimahullah says, the scholars had agreed that the ha'id woman, the woman who is having menstruation or postpartum woman, salah is not obligatory upon them, nor fasting. And they agreed that is wajib upon that woman to make it up that day when she cleans up after Ramadan, before the other Ramadan. Some scholars, they say if she reaches the second Ramadan and she did not make it up the day, then she has to fast, plus she has to feed a poor person on every day that she missed it without excuses. If she had an excuse, maybe she was breastfeeding, maybe she became pregnant right away, then she doesn't have to pay a fidya. She doesn't have to feed a faqir person, a miskin person. The question arises, will ha'id get a reward if she leaves the salah? What about the ha'idah? She's not fasting, so she was missing a lot of good deeds. There are two aqwal in the ulama. I'm going to mention which is stronger. Number one, some scholars, they say she will earn the reward. Which is the strongest one? Because she leaves fasting for worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who asked her not to fast. So because of her being obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, she will earn the reward of that day, but she has to make it up. Some scholars, they say no, she will not. Based on the hadith, or when the Prophet is talking about the woman that she didn't fast. But anyway, the strongest opinion is that she will be rewarded because she had left fasting for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In short form now, the menstruation woman and postpartum woman, she will quit the fasting. So now the question arises, if the woman starts her menstruation in the middle of the day, while she was fasting in the middle of the day, can she go ahead and drink it? According to the al-asah, the correct way is that since she break her fast and the blood came, she can go ahead and drink it. What about if she cleans up during the day? She became so clean during the day in the dhuhr time, and in the morning she was not clean. So what she does? What do you think, Abdullah? Fast, because she doesn't have any excuse anymore. But when we were talking about when she will start, when we were talking about if the blood comes to her during the half of the day, then the excuse already started. So it depends on the excuse. Does she have the excuse at the moment, momentary excuse? Which day is that? Yes, any day that she didn't fast completely, she have to make it up that day. Yes, you have to make it up that day. Yes. Al-hamil wal-murdi'ah. The other group who can break their fast is the pregnant woman and the breastfeeding woman. And these are into two. They can, both of them, there is no khilaf. They are like sick person. They can break their fast and they can make it up that day. So the scholars, they divide into two categories. They say if the pregnant woman or the breastfeeding woman breaks their fast because they were afraid for themselves or for their children, to both of them, then she's like a sick person. If she afraid for her life, she's like a sick person, then she will just make it up on that day. If she is afraid, she break her fast because she afraid only for the baby, and she knows that she won't have any difficulties. The scholars, they say that she will do qada plus kafara. She will do qada, she will make up that day, plus she will feed a poor person, and she will feed a miskin instead of that day. Based on Ibn Abbas's qawl, وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ, those who have difficulties, فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ miskin. However, the strongest, there is no solid dalil says that the pregnant woman or the breastfeeding woman, if they don't fast, they have to make it up plus make a fidya. That's not a solid opinion, even though some scholars have. So the strongest opinion, the asah, would be in this mas'ala, the pregnant woman and the breastfeeding woman, they can break their fast for any reason, whether it's for themselves or for the babies, and they will only make up for that day based on the hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Said, "Inna Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala wada'a anil musafiri shatra as-salah wa anil hamili wal murdi'ati as-siyam." So Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not mention anything of paying a fidya instead of that day, and that's the strongest opinion. So if for any reason, whether for her baby or for herself, if she breaks her fast, she just makes up that day. However, the sisters could fast. My wife always fasts in the month of Ramadan. If she gets pregnant, she fasts. I don't know, if she's breastfeeding, probably could be difficult. Any experience here? A pregnant, I have experience that she could fast. Nobody has experience? A breastfeeding? A pregnancy, yeah. Pregnancy, you can fast with it. Sisters, I don't know if a breastfeeding sister could fast and still can breastfeed. Can she? Or the milk will go away? Allahu alam. We say Allahu alam. Okay, Allahu alam. Okay, how you? And for those we said that for the people who cannot fast, for the old person. Now, let's talk about the ajiz. For the person who is sick due to age, or for a sickness that he will not recover from, that he will not be able to fast on that day, what he does, that person, he is allowed to break his fast. Instead of the day that he missed, he will feed a poor person. He will give, they say, the scholars, they say, he has to give nisf sa', half sa', which is kilogram wa nisf, 1.5 kilos of the rice to anything, or a bur, or anything that the people eat, you could give to a miskin person. How to do it? Either you could do after Ramadan, collect 30 poor people and invite them and cook for them with soup and let them eat. That you could do it. Or if you want to do daily, you could. Every day. If you want, and if there's a need to do it in advance also, you can do it with intention. But there have to be a need, though. There have to be a need. The people who would need it. Okay? So that's the way you could, the old person, the person who is sick and his sickness is not expected to recover, that's the way he pays the fidya. Is it allowed to, scholars have a debate on this. It's the same issues of is it allowed to pay in money instead of zakat al-fitr? No. But the qawl that I lean to, even very debatable, is that you can. But the safest way always is to cook. That's better. The Musakimin would be happier. They will be happier. 30 people, but they will charge you a lot of money. But the nisf sa' is 1.5 kilos of rice, each one. So if you decide, you can buy from Walmart and give 1.5 kilos each one. I don't know how many pounds is that, 3? Taqriban 3 maybe? I think so. So you give each one 3 pounds of rice, if I'm correct when I say 3, but I'm sure of 1.5. It's taqriban there, right? Okay. So now let's talk about the muftarat. What nullifies the fasting? Do we have a time? What time is it? 9. Okay, they were saying they want to eat before. Shall we stop? Anyway, by the way, it's going to be two parts. Part 2 will be in Sundays. Shall we stop here and go from there Sunday? All right? Mm-hmm. The question of anything that I mentioned, yes. Anything that I didn't mention, I will delay it to Sunday. فليصم. حضر. نعم. I can't hear you good though. This lady's talking this way. شهد. حضر. Yes. Is the same. Is the concept? It means فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ, whoever is alive in the month, whoever reaches the month. Okay. No. You have to reach the fasting. You have to reach on your day has started. You have to reach the Fajr, the beginning of the fasting. فَلْيَصُمْ. So if Saudi Arabia announces the night, you don't have to fast the night. So you didn't shahid yet. The night, I mean. Usually they announce what time? Dhuhr time actually. They announce Dhuhr time. So you don't have to pass from Dhuhr time. We just wait our day to start. It depends. First, the person, he has to know what sickness he has. If a sickness that was told لا يرجى شفاؤه, is the one who can pay fidya. If you are sick and ترجى شفاؤه, then you don't have to pay a fidya. The fidya, the person who pays fidya is al-marid الذي لا يرجى شفاؤه. In case you were al-marid الذي لا يرجى شفاؤه and you give it and later you recover from it, they say you did in a valid reason. In a valid reason, you don't have to make it up. In a valid reason. Always the ahkam, it applies at the momentarily. What the moment is. If the moment is la yurja jifa'uhu, that rule applies it. Inshallah. Yeah, it has to be if the sickness the doctor has to give you this, you're not going to recover from it. But if it's an older age, is known. Some people, they're so old, he can't fast anymore. So you don't have to get a doctor from. But the regular person, a young age, he needs to hear serious that he will not recover from it. He can't fast or? Oh, you mean individually? Yes, individual. I thought you were talking about the same masala of him. That a person who is not expected to recover, who decides sick, you decide it. You will decide based on your instinct. If you feel you're weak, you can't do it, it's difficult, you break your fast. You break your fast based on your instinct. If you feel you're not that sick, then you're good to go. Inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Sunday, inshallah, after Maghrib, we will finish part 2, inshallah. Go ahead, I can take questions. Which hadith you said? Of shak. The hadith of shak, I think, is in Bukhari. Let me check it for you. Yawm shak, the day of doubt. Fasting the day of doubt is haram, as we mentioned it, which is the Sa'ban 30 days. Bukhari. It's in Bukhari, صححه ابن خزيمة وابن حبان. So it's in Bukhari. من صام يوم الشك فقد عصى أبا القاسم. It's in Bukhari. خلاص سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Let's eat inshallah before the salah. It's 9:30. Don't forget Sunday inshallah. It's going to be more interesting and more details. جزاكم الله خير.